There he is, sweet music, Frank Viola. What a performance that was in the '87 World Series in a Game 7 against the Cardinals. I've known him for a long time. Remember, the Twins used to train in Orlando in the early '80s, mid-'80s, and I was doing a little talk show. So guess who came by that studio once in a while? New Yorkers and all those kinds of things was the great Frank. And he's in a golf tournament down in Orlando. A lot of our guys are there, too. And he says, hello, Mr. Viola. How are you today, pal? Okay?
I am doing great. Yeah, we knew each other before the Mad Dog came into existence.
Oh, way before you became into existence, too, my friend. You were you were not you were not the
You're right about that. You're right.
The both of us. All right, first major league. You were 2
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Give me that one. All right, '82, first major league start. Who did it come against?
First major league start was against the Baltimore Orioles. No decision.
At Memorial
Next
Stadium?
Kansas City Royals, Vita Blue, got my first major league win. At
Wow, let's hold it out.
It was at the Metrodome.
The first start against the Orioles at the Metrodome. Is that correct?
At the Metrodome. Yep.
All right, you beat Blue. Give me a little rundown on your first.
Len Cicada.
Oh, Len Cicada, little infielder. Who can forget?
Len Cicada, infield base hit, Rich Dower, line drive out, and then I struck out, I believe, Benny Ayala. And then 3 innings later, Benny Ayala hit a 3-run homer off me to knock me out of the game.
How about that? All right, your first win against Vita. Let me give some
decision.
information on that. Go ahead.
7 innings. I left with a 4-1 lead. That's when we had Ron Davis as a closer. And Ron came in, finished the game up, so I got my first W against Vita Blue and the Kansas City Royals in Kauffman Stadium.
And Kauffman, he obviously gave you the ball from that game, right, Frank?
No, hell no. He kept it himself. You know those same guys, they want all the balls they can get. You know what?
Don't have the baseball. Now, how about the '87? A spotty postseason early, but then a great World Series. What did you do before Game 7 against St. Louis that day? What did you do in the afternoon? It was a Sunday night game. What did you do in the afternoon before that? Probably watch football. What did you do?
No, it was an 8 o'clock game, and I was in the clubhouse, believe it or not, at noon. I had all my family and stuff at the house. I was a pain in the neck to all of them. They told me to get out of the house. I went to the clubhouse. Butterflies were flowing, but, you know, it was just, that was our home away from home, so I just kicked back for a few hours, played cards with the guys, got mentally prepared. Unfortunately, we went out there. And it's funny because, you know, 15 years in the big leagues, Chris, and one playoff series, that was the only time I made the playoffs was '87, so we made it a good one at least.
Now, you sure did. You have great stuff that night, Frank, or no? Let me hear.
After the second inning, I gave up 2 runs and 4 hits, all 4 hits off a changeup. And Roy Smalley came in after the inning and told me, Frank, it's the 3rd time they've seen you in a week. They're looking at sitting on your changeup. Let's do something different. And the next 71 pitches, I retired 18 of the last 19 guys, and 69 of those 71 pitches were fastballs. So thank God to Roy picking that up, and I was able to spot the fastball. I had a good one that night, and the rest was history.
There you go. Smalley, of course, with Gene Mauch. That was his father-in-law, so he knew something about little baseball. You won the Cy Young in '88, and then you had a great year at the Mets in '90. Which year were you better than?
Ooh, I guess overall, beginning to end was '88, but '90 coming out. And, you know, being in my hometown and all the fans and stuff, that was pretty special, too, because that's the team I rooted for as a kid, and that's the team I was putting the numbers up for. So from that standpoint, it was great. But the shame is I was there for 3 years, and on paper, you know that New York Met was so talent-laden, but when push came to shove, we just couldn't get the job done, make the playoffs at the end of the year. That was the most frustrating part about being with the Mets. So much talent, just didn't get the job done.
You know, think about it, Frank. You went to a Minnesota team, and there's a bunch of young kids, and you obviously won that championship in '87. '88, you have a tremendous year, and the team did not make the playoffs in '88. Then you go to the Mets, and you're at the tail end of this Met run in the mid-'80s. So you missed a couple, and you weren't with the Twins in '91 with that second championship. So you were sort of on the tail end a little bit of a couple franchises. How about that for a sec? Let me hear.
Yeah, it would have been nice. It would have been nice to be able to be still with Minnesota '91 and/or a little better off with the Mets '90. But you know what? It was a great experience. Baseball is a great life. I mean, as you know, you've been reporting on it for years and years. We were blessed to be able to do something that every kid wants to do. And how do you beat that life? You really can't beat that life. It's just great.
How pressure are you coming to New York and pitching in your hometown, Frank? How much pressure was that with the Met team, that with Buddy Harrelson and everything else? There was always a lot of things going on off the field. You lost Strawberry to the Dodgers. But how about being in New York here with all the pressure and you being a hometown kid? Thoughts there?
It was great. It was great just for the fact that, growing up a Met fan, knowing what the press was like. If you went out, put your numbers up, behaved yourself, they were going to stay with you. The only negative I had in my 3 years with the Mets was the second half of my last year there when I was putting up some lousy numbers, and that was nobody's fault but my own because I didn't go out and do the job. So that was a frustrating part because it doesn't matter if you're from Long Island, if you don't get the job done, you're gonna get booed. And that second half of last year, I got booed just like everybody else. And before I got on the air, I was telling you, they had Don Imus, God rest his soul, I know he passed away a little bit ago, but he had a Viola suicide watch, and it was before cell phones. So if somebody saw me coming to the ballpark that second half of the year, they call Imus's office, say, Viola made it to the ballpark for another day, so Imus would call the suicide watch off. That's how bad it got that second half that one year.
Wow. Mike and I had just started. I was wondering if he gave you a hard time, but you told me it was Imus instead of Mike and I. So that makes me feel a little better. And how about the game against
Darling?
Mike? How about the game against Darling,
Best
Frank?
game ever pitched.
Go ahead. Let me hear.
Chris, I'm 59 years old, and all the years of baseball, to this day, major league game, minor league game, college game, best pitch game I've ever seen. Ron Darling threw 11 innings, no hit ball against us when I was in St. John's in the Northeast Regional. We managed to hit in the 12th. We scored a run in the 12th. We won 1-0, so I got the victory. I stayed with him. But, man, to see what Roger was able to do, and that enabled him to be the first-round draft choice he became with Texas and put his career on, where everybody knew who Ron Darling was. And since then, he's taken off like you guys on the TV booth doing a great job. So, great experience, great college experience. To this day, the best part about that whole thing, Chris, though, was that day at Yale. We played it at Yale. There was maybe 2,000 people there. 35 years later, around 200,000 said they were there. That was the cool part about that.
Indeed. All right, last thing, Frank, how about finishing your career, or at least the end of your career at Fenway for the Red Sox? So you pitched for the Red Sox, New York, and the Twins. How about Boston and Fenway with that short wall and left? You were left-hander. Let me get your thoughts on that.
Never bothered me. Believe it or not, I don't think I ever gave up a home run over the Green Monster. Now, right field's a different story, but over the Green Monster with my changeup, it negated all those power hitters. So from that standpoint, I love pitching at Fenway. The history behind it and all that stuff, but once again, frustration set in because we weren't as good as. What I tell people is those teams set the table for the World Championships to come. We made losing a little interesting, so the fans were sick of it by the time we left. So they started winning again. That's when the World Championships came into play. But playing in Boston, the history behind Boston, the fans of Boston, fantastic.
Great job, Frank. We talk soon. Good luck. Hit the golf ball straight. Always a pleasure, pal. Appreciate you coming on today.